Hey there, gearheads! Today we're diving into the Canadian automotive scene with a real head-scratcher, the 1960 Frontenac. This car, folks, is about as rare as a hen's tooth, a genuine one-year wonder that most folks south of the border have never even heard of. But for those in the know, the Frontenac holds a special place in Canadian automotive history. Now, you might be thinking, a Frontenac? What's that? And that's understandable. You see, the Frontenac was only sold for 1 year, 1960, and it was exclusive to the Great White North. It was a car designed to appeal to Canadian sensibilities, and in that sense, it was a unique piece of automotive history. Many people don't realize that Canada has its own distinct car culture. Sure, we share a lot of similarities with our American neighbors, but there are nuances, unique tastes, and preferences that make the Canadian market special. The Frontenac, in many ways, embodies that idea. It was a car built for Canadians by Canadians. Well, sort of, but we'll get to that later. So, buckle up, folks, as we take a closer look at this forgotten piece of Canadian automotive history and explore what made the Frontenac so special. And who knows, maybe after hearing about the Frontenac, you'll agree that it deserves a spot in any classic car enthusiast's garage. Now, let's talk about what was under the hood of this Canadian enigma. The Frontenac, while marketed as a distinct brand, was essentially a Ford Falcon underneath its unique exterior. That's right, folks. This Canadian classic shared its bones with its American cousin. The Falcon, as many of you know, was Ford's answer to the rising popularity of smaller, more fuel-efficient cars in the late 1950s. It was a hit for Ford, and it made perfect sense for them to leverage that success in the Canadian market. But simply slapping a maple leaf on the grille and calling it a day, Ford Canada decided to give their version of the Falcon its own unique identity. The Frontenac, it's a Canadian car for Canada. The Frontenac received its own distinct styling cues, setting it apart from its American sibling. This wasn't just a simple rebadge, folks. The Frontenac had its own grille, tail lights, and badging, all designed to give it a more upscale and luxurious feel compared to the Falcon. And you know what? It worked. The Frontenac was marketed as a premium offering, a cut above the Falcon in terms of style and sophistication. Canadians, it seemed, were drawn to the Frontenac's unique blend of American engineering and Canadian flair. Sadly, the Frontenac's time in the sun was short-lived. Despite its initial popularity, the Frontenac was only produced for the 1960 model year. There are a few reasons why this Canadian classic was retired so soon. Firstly, the Canadian car market was, and still is, significantly smaller than the US market. This limited production runs and made it harder for automakers to justify investing in unique models for Canadian consumers. It's a simple numbers game, folks. Secondly, the Frontenac faced stiff competition from other compact cars that were flooding the market at the time. Remember, the Falcon wasn't the only game in town. Other automakers were also vying for a piece of the compact car pie, and the Frontenac, despite its unique selling points, couldn't keep up. Finally, there was the issue of brand confusion. Remember how we talked about the Frontenac being a Ford Falcon in disguise? Well, that ended up being a bit of a double-edged sword. While it gave the Frontenac a solid mechanical foundation, it also made it difficult for some consumers to understand what the Frontenac truly was. Was it a Ford? Was it its own brand? The Frontenac having no other models in the lineup but one. The lines were a bit blurred, and that ambiguity may have hurt its long-term success. There were actually rumors of Ford considering selling the Frontenac in the US market. Can you imagine that? A Canadian car making its way south of the border. It would have been quite the sight to see. The thinking was that the Frontenac's unique styling and upscale positioning might have appealed to American buyers looking for something a little different from the Falcon. It could have been marketed as a premium compact car, slotting in above the Falcon in Ford's lineup. However, these plans never materialized. The reasons for this are unclear, but we can speculate. Perhaps Ford was concerned about cannibalizing Falcon sales, or maybe they felt that the American market wasn't ready for a Canadian car. Whatever the reason, the Frontenac remained a Canadian exclusive. Despite its short production run and the fact that it never quite made it big south of the border, the Frontenac holds a special place in Canadian automotive history. It's a reminder of a time when Canada's car culture was a little more distinct, a little more daring. And who knows, maybe one day we'll see a resurgence of that spirit, with a new generation of Canadian cars ready to take on the world. Until then, we'll always have the Frontenac, a shining example of Canadian automotive ingenuity.